Oh, look, there's another book behind my head.
All right. Two books. Two books.
Tell you what, I just finished. I'm through 100 pages of Bob Woodward's book. I love the part where he kicked Kim Jong-un's ass. Just fucking kicked that guy's ass.
Yeah, I missed that part because
and when we threatened like to cut off their cable TV, that was really good.
Yeah, that was good. That was some next level shit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Come on. It turned me around. I'm definitely voting for Trump. That's all I can tell you. After I read that Woodward book, he really showed me how effective that guy is.
Yeah. I don't know why there isn't a warning on it. There's a lot of dirty words in there.
It's not awful. It's not as bad as, I don't know. All right. I just shared it and it tagged you.
You can tag this.
Well, I need a magnifying glass, but sure, I'll try.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
And this is just, nobody can hear this.
Sure.
Right. You know the list of shows that I've never watched.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to know what's another one on the list that I obviously
is The Office one of them?
I've seen some of The Office.
Yeah.
That's not but completely missed 30 Rock. Should I?
No, I think you'll be too snarky about it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like to me, I don't know if you would enjoy that one or not.
I can live without it.
Yeah, you're better off just cycling through The Office. I think you guys, but I think Jane would like it. I think Jane would. I know you do things. You'll just stick in there just to do things for your wife sometimes. So this might be an opportunity for that.
I've already taken already took the bullet on Lost. So
from the man who said, I waited to watch Seinfeld because I wanted to watch it with my wife.
Well, it's true because it was on at 9:00 during the glory days of Larry King. I couldn't be watching it.
Oh, the glory days of Larry King. Tonight, Gina Lola Brigida, the great days of Hollywood.
And ambassador to the UN, Boutros Ghali.
Got it?
Yeah, we're set. I'm sure we're there. Yep. Okay. Here we go.
Ready?
The Brad and Britt cast is officially underway. We have a program note.
Do we?
There will be a third box tomorrow. A third box for those of you who are actually watching us, not just listening. Third box means another person. It'll be our good friend Andrew Broad, great economist, great writer, funny guy, and a person who has painted himself into a hilarious corner that he's going to have to talk his way out of tomorrow on his Facebook page yesterday. He loves to do stuff like this. He goes, my 5-year-old asked me, Daddy, when did you start wiping yourself?
And he's trying to count up the years. I saw that. He's like the number of years.
I love it. It's so funny. It's so great.
That's funny.
It's so excellent. All right. Anyway, Andy Broad tomorrow. So I was so sure that Mitt Romney had made that turn, and he really did want his obituary, his epitaph, his reputation to follow him into Wikipedia forever, saying he's the guy that not only drew the line in blindly supporting Donald Trump and voted not to acquit him during the impeachment trial in the Senate, but he also stood firm for the Constitution, at least as far as the tradition that was established 4 years ago by his party
Mhm.
in not even speaking to Merrick Garland, let alone holding a vote for him
Right.
in the final year of Barack Obama's
It was
presidency.
fake then, and it's fake now.
Right.
So
for him to completely cave, not only did he cave, not
oh,
only did he cave in, but he lied.
yeah.
He just flat out lied, where he said, "Oh, they're trying this bullshit about, well, in the final year of a presidency, if it's the opposite party that runs the Senate, they never ever vote on a nominee." And you know how far back you have to go? Do you know how far back you have to go for that to not be true?
How?
1988.
32 years ago. Britt
who-
Whitmire was a
who-
senior in high school.
Right. And Ronald Reagan was the president. He nominated Anthony Kennedy
Yeah.
in late 1987
Right.
because Robert Bork
Got
had
borked.
been borked,
Yep.
and Douglas Ginsburg was a pothead. Okay. We just couldn't have a pot smoking.
How silly does that seem?
Well,
No, a pot smoker you can't have, but an alcoholic who somehow lays on top of girls while they scream, that's okay. You know, it's very odd that the lines that are drawn on Supreme Court justices, right?
are you talking about the shameful treatment of a great man,
Yeah.
Brett Kavanaugh?
That's right. Yes,
How
of
dare
course.
you?
Yes.
Anyway, so Reagan nominates him late in 87. 88 is the election year, and they voted him in. I think it was like unanimous vote. Nobody voted against him. Like
there was not much controversy on Kennedy.
97-0, because he was the definition of a guy in the hearings who you could tell was really, really fair and could see all sides of an issue and then make a decision. I believe he's the last of his breed. And of course, he got replaced by Brett Kavanaugh.
He did.
A couple of years ago.
Of course, he was vilified by the right for what, 3 decades plus, I suppose, right?
Well, no,
for being a traitor.
No, they liked him when they liked him, and they hated him when they hated him.
Exactly.
And that's actually the definition of a good umpire.
I would say that's true. Yeah, I'd say he called balls and strikes.
But for Mitt Romney to at this hour say what he is saying is so pathetic.
Isn't it sad?
It is. It's really, really sad.
Isn't it sad?
Because he had everything to gain.
He did.
In terms of his reputation. And I know he doesn't care what you think or what I think or nobody cares what anybody thinks anymore, I guess.
The only Republican senator.
Is that what makes great people now? People who don't give a fuck about what anybody ever thinks about anything, because nobody knows nothing except me. I'm the only one that knows anything.
He's the only Republican senator to vote for one of the articles of impeachment, which of course made Donald Trump whip him endlessly. Right. So now, if there was any question, I know the people that are watching and listening right now, they know if there's any question that this is about anything other than women's ovaries, you just got your answer. Mitt Romney, as a Mormon, wants to lock them up. So that's what this is all about. That's what it's always been about. It's very sad when Susan Collins is your profile in freaking courage. She's the one with a backbone on this thing, and you're the guy that wimps out, Mitt. So it makes me absolutely 100% glad that I did not vote for you in 2012 when you were up for election as the Republican nominee, and you are who we thought you were. At long last, you did the right thing during impeachment. You did the right thing for the country, and now you're just going along with the crowd right now. So, yeah, this is massively disappointing for Mitt Romney.
But this is the core question. How can you think that the president is unfit to be president, that he is, just as Bob Woodward said, unfit and not the man for the job? And you actually showed it when you had the opportunity by voting for that article of impeachment. How can you think that he's not fit for so many of the reasons that were listed, that you believed that they merited that vote back then, but you believe that he is qualified to make a judgment now on who should be on the Supreme Court for the next 35 or 40 years? Although I believe, again, there's not one thing that ever comes up that we haven't talked about in the past. And I've said if Donald Trump could nominate a fetus who would then be born and be able to be on the Supreme Court for 75 or 80 years, he'd do it. He's looking for the youngest. He's looking for the youngest fresh meat, as we like to used to say in the fraternity, to be up there. And so he's not qualified to be president. He should be kicked out of office but you'll go along with his Supreme Court nominations, which of course they're not really his. We'll just pretend for the sake of the argument that he's deciding who it should be. That he is weighing all of the circumstances and the qualifications and the merits of the Catholic girl from Indiana versus the Cuban chick from Florida. I mean, basically that's what it's down to, right?
That's it. And it's going to be Saturday. They have announced they do not know exactly when on Saturday. I guess it means it's when he gets off the golf course that they're going to make the actual announcement. Right. He sent that tweet out saying it's going to be on Saturday.
I want the record to show that this is a Congress, a Senate led by a person who just has been unable to get it together to help tens of millions of real living Americans, not potential Americans, real living Americans with their finances right now, to be able to keep them in their homes, to enable them to keep paying their bills, to enable businesses not to collapse, for us to not be down to a restaurant scene in America just made up of Olive Garden, McDonald's, and other gigantic chains, because every independent restaurant is on the verge of collapse right now and going out of business if they haven't closed their doors already. They cannot get their act together quickly enough to do that. They can't cut a deal on that. And the Democrats already 3 months ago laid out what they thought was a reasonable group of ideas. And the Republicans are downselling it and now lying about the path of the coronavirus. And by throwing in the whole Supreme Court, well, we can't talk about saving the United States of America. We've got a Supreme Court justice we've got to squeeze through.
Right.
Yeah, that's just so damn important. You want to talk about misplaced priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to have been joined in my view of this, that this is going to backfire. This is not going to work. This is not going to drive people to come out of the bushes in rural America to vote for Donald Trump, who sat home in 2016 or have been on the fence and been bored and will be excited by this. I've been joined by Judge Napolitano.
Oh, wow. He's on your side.
Absolutely. He says it's going to be a backfire. This is a bridge too far. You don't do this. Now, on the other hand, he is a fairly strict constitutionalist.
Oh.
But wait a minute. But I thought that, I'm confused. Oh, he's a real strict constitutionalist on things like this, not a situational strict constitutionalist like these frauds like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz and everybody else who you've seen now in their statements from 4 years ago and sometimes from 2 years ago and sometimes from 4 months ago, saying that if there was a nomination in the final year, or if there was an opening, I should say, that there should not be a vote on it until the next president is elected. We don't have to run through the entire list, because
I think
that's every Republican.
But that's a key element of it. Is Merrick Garland couldn't even get a vote. They wouldn't even bring it up for a hearing and a vote. So that's all that was being asked.
They wouldn't even if they talk to him. They would not. They would not speak to him. They would
even if he did not have the votes to be the next. They would have at least been on the record with an, as they call it, an up or down vote against Merrick Garland. So that's the point of it, is just to even give the man some sort of hearing so that you could actually decide whether you were going to go on record as being, for or against him.
Well, that's the Mitt Romney wiggle. He's not committing 100% to saying he would automatically vote. He wants to hear whether the person is qualified or not.
And the check's in the mail, and I love you, and I think you know the third one. Everybody knows that as long as Mitt Romney gets the vibe that this guy does not want women in control of their own ovaries, he's going to go for it. That's what this is about. That's what it's always been about. They can say it's about anything else, and I really like the strict interpretation, and I'm an originalist and all this other horse shit. It's all about Roe versus Wade. It's always been about Roe versus Wade, and that's the only thing that they care about. They swear to God that they care about other stuff, and they try to go ahead and appease younger voters. No, we're not trying to take away your rights. We don't care about birth control. And the first chance they get to kick the shit out of Roe versus Wade, they take it every single time. And they've been doing it for 47 years.
Well,
and now they're on the precipice of doing exactly what they've been wanting to do for 4.5 decades.
I think generally you're right, but there is another school of thought, because remember, there have been a couple of decisions made over the last few years where John Roberts comes in. It's a 5-4 decision, and things are saved. And they have not been very friendly to all these bizarre restrictions that come up. The hallway has to be exactly 3 feet 4 inches wide.
Right. The parking lot has to have like parking spaces for all that shit, compact cars and all that shit they do.
Right. And there's a school of thought that someone like this judge, Amy Coney Barrett, is that her name?
I think that's correct. Yeah.
As off the wall as she is, Catholic doctrine and all this other crap, in the end, might be one of those people that does not vote to overturn, but is friendly to all these choking restrictions that are thrown right in front of your car. Where, by the way, if you throw enough crap in front of your car, you get into a crash and you die anyway.
Well, it's de facto. It means that women in Mississippi will not be treated like women in New York will be treated, and women in Alabama will not.
The argument, they already aren't. They already aren't.
Well, it's going to, but it's going to codify it. It'll codify it. It'll make it official that it does depend on where you're born as to whether you have access to health care. That and that's not the way it should be in the greatest country in the world. Women who live in Arkansas should have the same access to the same stuff that the women in California do, that the women in Minnesota do, that the women in West Virginia do. And if she codifies that, then we've taken a real step backward for women. But Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, they're the same, Brad. They're just really the same thing. So that's why it didn't matter.
But I think that to have someone testifying to this in public in the next 3 or 4 weeks is not a winning hand for Republicans or for women out in the suburbs who Trump apparently is losing in droves. This is not going to bring them back in.
No, I think you're right about that.
This is not going to bring them back in. And if we know one thing about Donald Trump, he's not what we call a strategic thinker, right?
No.
He certainly doesn't think about 2 years from now, 10 years from now.
He doesn't care about 2 years from now. He doesn't care about 10 years from now.
He might care about 2 minutes from now.
Maybe.
I'm not even sure he thinks that.
That's when he's getting his Diet Coke and his Cheetos. That's when he cares about 2 minutes from now.
And I just think that he places the photo op above everything else on every issue. And he wants the photo op, first of all, of the nomination process, of her being introduced by him to the public. There's always that little ceremony that they have. And then he wants to be there at the swearing in. And he somehow thinks that that's a galvanizing, turnout driving moment.
Well, what does that mean? What does that image mean to Donald Trump and to his followers? It's a shove up your ass to every liberal in America. It's a win. It's just a victory. It's a big. I'm holding up a middle finger to the camera for those of you that are watching this on podcast. That's what it is, and that's what he cares about. Now, as far as it being helpful for getting votes out and winning, I don't know, but he doesn't care. He just wants the middle finger and the up your ass to anybody who's ever thought about being a Democrat and voting for a Democrat in America.
Well, I just think there's a big difference between what you said applying right now and being a prospective way that Donald Trump would behave from 4 years ago, where people love that about him. They love that about him. And yes, there are still people that love that about him. There's still people who will show up at his rallies and get his endorphins going, because that appears to be the only thing that excites him these days, is showing up at these rallies, walking out, clapping like a fucking moron, and repeating the same bullshit over and over and over again. Going through the stories of 2016, that glorious night in November. That's all that excites him. And every 4 years that a president runs for re-election, the topic comes up of, do we have Obama fatigue? Do we have Clinton fatigue? Do we have George W. Bush fatigue? And the answer for a lot of people is always kind of yes. Well, if it was always kind of yes, and those guys all got reelected, they all got reelected.
Yes, they did.
In this case, there's definite Donald Trump fatigue. There's even Donald Trump fatigue among people who say they support him.
That's correct.
Now, some of them won't admit it. A lot of them do. And he's, I think, giving them every reason to take that off ramp now and just say, it's been a great 4 years. We're the Buffalo Bills. We made the Super Bowl 4 years in a row. That's it. It's over.
We didn't win. Yeah, we're
going to have, and it's over. I think it's an overplaying. I think the smartest thing to do, if they're determined to do this, and they obviously are, is to not hold the final vote until after the election. And even if Trump loses, they can still vote her in. It's obnoxious as hell.
It will be, but they're going to be even more desperate at that point. They're going to be even more desperate at that point. That's going to be about saving the Republican Party. And saving the Republican Party by taking women's ovaries away from them is going to be like a huge deal, especially if Donald Trump wins and loses in early November.
Exactly. So if you want to make it a referendum on that, go ahead, go all the way. But I believe if they finish this off before we get to the election itself, it takes the issue really kind of off the table and gives people that space to say, yeah, I want to admit it now to my relatives. I do have Trump fatigue.
Well, yeah.
And move on.
Some of us had Trump fatigue 2 minutes into this.
Right.
Like the day after the election, when he insisted it was the largest crowd in inauguration history, or the day after the inauguration, when he insisted, he sent Sean Spicer out there to lie to us and tell us that what we saw was not what we saw. That was when I started to get Trump fatigue.
And you place the 6 or 7 Republican senators in the position, all of them, of defending the indefensible.
That's right.
There is a debate tonight, Tuesday night, in North Carolina. It's another Tom Tillis, Cal Cunningham extravaganza. Isn't it amazing how hard you have to look to know that that's happening? Why is that?
It's not well publicized.
Why
State politics.
That?
People
Why
don't cover.
Is that?
Well,
by the way, I've noticed that since I moved to North Carolina in 1987. There's been something.
Even when it was covered well, it wasn't covered well, and now there's nobody left to cover it. There are no journalists to cover that stuff. So it's a stair step of crap that's happened over the years. Yes, you're right about that.
So look for that. It'll be all. It'll be on like WRAL.com or probably on public TV.
I would think so.
Look for that. That's tonight.
So yeah, the situation is that Mitt Romney has folded, and that I hope that women across America, and I hope the men also. I hope it doesn't have to be just women that care about having the Roe versus Wade struck down, because we're closer to it now than we've ever been. And I know that people think that's alarmist, and oh God, you guys said that in the '80s, and you said that in the '90s, and no, this is it.
It's for real now. But we have to look inside the numbers, and Joe Biden has had this massive lead among women in general forever, and it has not changed. Okay,
that's right.
And now that we're seeing an erosion of women in the outer suburbs, the inner suburbs of upper Midwestern cities, and probably down through North Carolina and surely in Florida too.
Sure.
As the Biden campaign is making this decision on weighing the loss of some Hispanic voters, Cubans, versus gaining the number of women in Florida who are white and in the suburb. That's a balancing act for them. And I think Florida is basically a tie right now in the polls. And man, Roe versus Wade was in 1973. Holy shit. I mean, that's a long time ago. That's a long time that the country has lived without having what we used to see before 1973.
Right.
And I remember reading about all of the stories of women having to travel to different states and girls that would be shunned off to Nowhereville and all
exactly.
that kind of, and we're not going to actually go back to that, but symbolically we are.
Exactly. No, there's going to be some people who are not going to have access to it. There's especially poor women It's going to be the poor women that are going to suffer more than anything else, because if you're someone who is wealthy and you happen to live in Mississippi or you live in Alabama, daddy's going to have somebody at the country club that's going to be able to hook you up.
Right.
That's not going to be an issue. You'll be okay.
I think Democrats would be making a mistake if they put this issue front and center to the point where they're able to be tagged. Well, that's all they care about is killing babies.
Yeah, but see,
hang on. It's not a question of whether that's true or not.
It's projection. Because all they care about is the abortion thing. That's all the Republicans care about. Of course. And so they project it like.
And by the way, when you're for a woman's right to choose an abortion or have the baby,
right?
That's not forcing someone to have an abortion versus someone who is not allowing you to have the choice. In other words,
and then we get into the discussion of when the babies have severe birth defects and the brain is growing outside of the skull, and you just don't want it. Why do you have to even?
You don't want to have that discussion.
You have to. You have to have that discussion. Because they want them, Brad. They always want to make it about whether the woman wants to have blue eyes for the kid or not. It's always that bullshit, and you have to knock that down. You cannot cede that ground to them.
If you get down into the mud with Donald Trump on the intricacies and the physiology,
well, then he wins.
Unborn.
If you're not willing to fight the fight, then you. Okay. If you're not willing to fight the fight, if you're not willing to fight the fight, then you lose. Then he's right, and he's going to get his supreme, and he'll strike it down, and then he'll win. You have to fight the fight where it belongs.
Well,
and if they try to make it about whether you want your child to have blue eyes or brown eyes, you have to knock that shit in the mouth and out of the park, because that's not what it's about, and it never has been about, and that needs to be told, because they've gotten away with that for 50 years now. And I'm sick of it. I don't want that shit anymore. They don't. It's not a decision the government should be involved with. It's a terrible decision. It's a brutal decision for a lot of women and men to make. And the government shouldn't be involved. And we shouldn't be talking about it like they're trying to, they didn't get a girl this time. They wanted a boy, so they're going to go ahead and suck it out and throw it down the drain. That's not what this is about, nor has it ever been about. It's about brutal realities, about sometimes the kids having severe birth defects and parents having to go through a lot of soul searching as to whether they want to terminate the pregnancy or not. That story has to be told, Brad. And I know that sounds like it's getting down in the weeds, but that's what this is about. That's what's on the line in this election.
I say that health care, not abortion, is a much more important issue to lead with.
It is. All
of the time. And do you want Joe Biden getting tied up with words, which he will be, if it gets I don't want him to go there. I don't want him to be the lead guy to defend the actual legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the other Supreme Court justices who voted that in. She didn't vote it in. She came after that. But you get the point. This isn't about right or wrong. It's about how they've got this is the demagogic issue that Donald Trump wants to run on. He wants to not talk about the coronavirus. He doesn't want to talk about the number 200,
which is why you come up. You have a couple of lines for Joe Biden, such as, "I wish that Donald Trump cared as much about the born as he pretends to care about the unborn." You say that, and you knock him on his ass.
Then stop there.
That's it. But that's a good way to go.
But just think of those speeches that Trump has given over the years, where he gets graphic. He gets really, really graphic about violence.
Yeah.
And that. So imagine him going down into the toilet.
Yeah, but I kind of want to hear him talk about the 9-month-old babies that are pulled out of their mothers and then butchered. I kind of want to hear that again. I kind of want to hear that speech, that's happening in places all across America, that there are full-grown babies that are being sucked out of their mothers and then butchered. Because everybody knows, Britt, I'm sorry, that doesn't help him.
But you know what? I think we've learned one thing. If you're fact-checking Donald Trump, you're losing.
That's not even a fact.
He's immune to fact-checking.
Well, okay, then last night in Toledo, he says that the coronavirus affects virtually nobody. That's the quote from Donald Trump. Well, so do you get in the weeds to talk about that, or do you just let him get away with that?
Well, okay, and I'm not defending Donald Trump, but that is slightly out of context. He didn't mean that. He was talking about, by the way, he's wrong about it even in context, because he was going through his young people don't get it. Virtually no one gets it.
Here's the, I'll give you the exact quote.
Hang on, let me finish. So
I got the exact quote.
I know you've got the exact quote. Give the whole context.
It affects elderly people with heart problems. If they have other problems, that's what it really affects. In some states, thousands of people, nobody young, below the age of 18, like nobody, they have a strong immune system. Who knows? It affects virtually nobody. It's an amazing thing. By the way, open your schools.
Right. He's an idiot. There's not one thing in there that, even if there's a grain of truth to it, is a good excuse for his complete incompetence and inaction on this, and telling Bob Woodward back in February, this thing's a goddamn killer. It's 5 times worse than. There's nothing. But you don't want to play the out of context game, because it's not a winner. You don't need to take him out of context at all. Mm-hmm. You can just give the full statement. It's stupid.
The New York Times says that Dr. Fauci, director of the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, has rejected that argument. He told CNN just yesterday, or just today rather, that 25 to 30% or more of the population has an underlying condition. This is something that you've been hearing a lot on the Brad and Britt cast. People will talk about underlying conditions. There are a lot of Americans who are walking around with underlying conditions, such as hypertension or diabetes or heart disease or asthma, any number of underlying conditions. And he says it can be serious to young people. So even if we go ahead and strip out it affects practically nobody, the other things that he was saying were absolutely correct.
Absolutely. And I think if you argue that in the context of, if Donald Trump and his Supreme Court have their way, the chances that you can be stripped of your protection for all of those underlying issues that you just talked about, diabetes and the rest of them, by an insurance company will come back. This idea that we're going to make America great again before Obamacare in healthcare, yeah, that was so great. Remember how we used to all love our health insurance company? Right. They were so good to us. And then Obama, they came along and just wrecked it. It was so good back then. I just remember the good old days when I would get fired and we'd have no health insurance.
You get that Cobra?
That's a great one.
So affordable, so completely affordable. It's really a good thing.
Yeah, $3,000 a month for health insurance.
I would love to know the number of people, the percentage of people who ever took advantage of Cobra. It has to be like around 1%.
It's small.
It's got to be around 1% of human beings who ever did that.
Yeah, it's pretty small. And look up and see what year they came up with that.
That was in the 90s. That was a Bill Clinton thing, I believe.
No, I'm not sure. But whatever it was, if that was the result of what was the failed.
Oh, geez.
What year?
That's 1985. So yeah,
85. Oh, during the great Ronald Reagan administration.
Ronald Reagan time. That's right.
When we were really doing nothing about health insurance.
Jeez.
Because
it sounds like a Republican plan to me. Here, you like your health insurance, pay 20 times more for it now that you have no job. Yeah, right. that sounds like a Republican deal to me. Now that I think of it,
that is perfect. That is right after. So Reagan gets reelected in 84.
Yeah,
he wins 48 states,
landslide.
Okay, landslide, and this is the Republican answer.
Yeah.
To people getting fired and losing their health insurance. And you know what? They haven't come up with a good idea since then. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. They came up with really Obamacare under a different name.
They did.
They did come up with all those ideas. And then when
the black guy put it forward, he totally ruined it by being black. So, I mean, it was terrible of him to do that.
So my point is that, and I think that Joe Biden has been very disciplined on this. I think he's been very good at, even on days when the top story, the absolute top story is the Supreme Court, he comes out and talks about health care. Mm-hmm. And I think the Democrats could do a lot worse than to think, it's only been 2 years since we used that playbook and won back the House of Representatives in the biggest landslide since the early 20th century in terms of number of seats that switched and the number of total votes that moved our way. And we did it not by taking the bait of whatever culture war issue was going. Oh, I'm sorry. Remember, it was caravans coming up from Mexico.
Oh, right.
To kidnap your sister. And to me, to just argue straight abortion politics right now would be as stupid as it would have been then to go with the bait on
but
that.
you do have to acknowledge it.
You have to acknowledge, but you know what? You let other people do it.
Yeah,
you let other groups.
Well, I think that's where Kamala Harris is really excellent. That's why you picked her to be your vice president. She can be the lead blocker on that.
That's where the super PACs can spend a bunch of money
absolutely
out there on that, and Joe Biden, in a sense, can stay above the fray.
He's good at that.
He really can.
And you can. What you said was correct as far as them being the message discipline of that campaign. You can have. There are a number of criticisms you can give to the Biden campaign about this, that, or the other. The message discipline has been really good. And the message discipline during the Democratic National Convention was very good. And they have stayed on point and done a good job of keeping their message very clean and very straight throughout. They have not been able to send a lot of mixed messages and stuff like that. I think that part of it has been real good for the Biden campaign. And Joe Biden will be visiting North Carolina on Wednesday as he's coming to Charlotte. And then Donald Trump is coming to Charlotte on Thursday, Brad, to visit swing state North Carolina. I hope they have a better time in Charlotte than we did.
Well, so Trump can reminisce about those great days he had there at his convention in Charlotte.
They still don't have a lot of details about. And it says President Trump, Brad, on Thursday will be discussing health care in America when he visits Charlotte. He's got a lot of bona fides, as they say, to discuss that.
I am sure that he will be announcing that in 2 weeks he's going to have that plan.
Yeah, the plan. They've been working on it for 3.5 years now, haven't they?
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to get it any second now.
Well, the thing is, you already know what he's going to say. He's going to say that he's already signed an executive order protecting, and I'm using the exact language that morons like Trump use, protecting pre-existing conditions, okay? As opposed to protecting it against insurance companies being able to throw you off of your health insurance because of your pre-existing condition. But he shorthands it and says pre-existing conditions. That is the language of the ignorant. That's what that is.
Very odd, very strange. As the campaign continues to make its way through. And were you watching the football game last night with a lot of the ads that were on there?
I did not watch a lot of football last night. I caught a little bit of it.
The opening salvo?
Congratulations, by the way.
Come on.
They, you know what? At least from what I saw, they look like for the first time in how many years, Britt? 20?
This is the fourth time this century they've started 2-0.
Right. But they actually looked like a well-coached team.
They did.
They did. Okay.
And I'm not the biggest John Gruden fan, but they were a disaster in that first quarter, and he made the actual adjustments. Yeah, so there were a lot of advertisements, obviously, for politics during the game, and they're going to continue to do that one.
Were those national ads, or were they the local?
I saw national and local, and I'm staying. People who are watching on our feed right now, they'll notice that I'm in a different location. I'm up at my mom's house in the mountains, so we're getting a lot of the Lindsey Graham versus Jamie Harrison stuff, in addition to Cal Cunningham versus Tom Tillis. And so they're they're in the Greenville Spartanburg television market. So we're getting a lot of the South Carolina stuff. And of course, Donald Trump is still very popular in South Carolina. There's no question that he's going to carry South Carolina. It's a little bit of a question as to whether he's going to carry North Carolina. So you get a good sampling of the different things that are going on nationally, and kind of that Lindsey Graham versus Jamie Harrison race looks pretty interesting.
That's down to the last dog, isn't it?
It is. It's going to go all the way. I think Lindsey Graham's going. I think Lindsey Graham, being the snake in the grass that he has been over the past 48 hours, is really going to win out for him, because a lot of people in South Carolina think that women, they had a pretty good run there controlling their own ovaries, but it's time for that to go away.
And who better to decide an issue like that than Lindsey Graham, a man who has, as far as we know, never been with a woman.
Has he been in the same zip code as an ovary?
He's never seen the equipment, let alone ridden the motorcycle.
This is what Lindsey Graham knows about the female reproductive system. It's that little thing that looks like a bull that you saw in elementary school. That's what Lindsey Graham knows about the female reproductive system. Remember when he was running for president? Remember when they said, well, who's going to fulfill the first lady duties if you're elected president? Remember what he said?
His dog?
No, it's his sister, right? The same person he went to prom with. Apparently she was going to be the one that was going to take care of all the first lady duties in the event that he was elected president.
Well, I think that Lindsey Graham could be in real trouble. And here's why. South Carolina is the state that already has one black senator. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
And so this idea that South Carolina is by definition too racist to kick out Lindsey Graham and put a black, that's inoperative. We know that's not true. And the argument that Jamie Harrison makes, and I think it's a good one. Again, it's a very disciplined message. It isn't just about, we know Lindsey Graham is a liar. We know he's a hypocrite. Roll the tape of him saying, if in the last year a president nominates the Supreme Court, I'm not voting for it.
That's
and
right.
You can hold me to it and save the tape. You can run that 1,000,000 times. Okay. We get that. We know they're hypocrites. But the idea that Jamie Harrison, from what I've seen, is putting forward is Lindsey Graham does not care about South Carolina. He cares more about getting those hits every night with Sean Hannity.
Yes, he does.
And Laura Ingraham.
That's right.
Ever does about the people of South Carolina. And I would guess that if there's ever a guy who, if you track how often does he come back home on the weekends, I'll bet it's less than a lot of other politicians.
No,
I'll bet it's way few. And Jamie Harrison, who is absolutely of South Carolina, he is South Carolina when you hear him talk.
He's got the Jim Clyburn. He's got that pedigree,
right?
So and there's a lot of people that identify with that.
And Jamie Harrison, I think he went to Yale.
Yeah,
obviously couldn't get into Harvard. Not smart enough to get into Harvard.
Well, maybe next time, Jamie.
Right. But South Carolina, look, they had an Indian American governor.
They did.
They have a black senator. Okay. Yeah. You can't say that about probably any other state in the country. You can't.
Well, that could be another bellwether on.
And I think
that could be another bellwether on Election Day. If they end up if Lindsey Graham loses and Donald Trump won't lose South Carolina,
God, that would be the greatest thing ever. That would be.
But I think it could be a bellwether that Donald Trump's in big trouble nationally, because that could mean that I've always said in addition to watching Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, you got to look at Arizona and Texas and Georgia. I think if Donald Trump loses any one of those states, I think he's done. And I think it's very likely that he's going to lose Florida as well. Florida is going to be peace out anyway. It's going to be a landslide at that point. But I think if you lose any of Arizona, Texas, and Georgia, and Arizona looks the best of those, and I think Georgia's probably second, then Texas has always been a long shot. At some point, Texas will fall to a Democratic presidential nominee. I don't know if it's going to be this time. It could be this time, but it's going to happen within my lifetime and probably within the next 8 to 12 years. It's going to happen because the Republican Party is now dead.
Yeah, I'd like to see Joe Biden go to Texas. He should go. Too. He should go there.
I think so as well.
Of course, he has to go to Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan. I mean, we know that, and Florida. But it's okay, at least once in a while, to head out to those states. They're aspirational states. They're not guaranteed at all. None of them are guaranteed. But Texas has been hanging out in front of them for years, and they never seem to be able to close the deal. But because in the last Senate race in 2018, Ted Cruz only won by, was it 3 points?
That's right.
Over Beto O'Rourke. To me, that marches right along with the national results in the House of Representatives, where there was this big flip. And I keep hearing this drone of, well, in 2018, because the Senate got a little bit more Republican, that's the mandate to push through a Supreme Court nominee.
Yeah, I love that.
As the old Bobby Van comedy show, game show was called, Make Me Laugh.
Absolutely.
Make Me Laugh. By the way, a great show.
And Bobby was a good host too. He's not really. There's still a lot of
not related to Bobby Van's Steakhouse.
Oh, it's a different guy.
Different guy.
He should have parlayed into that because he could have done well with that whole steakhouse concept. Yeah. You notice that the racist march through Alamance County in our area continues to get a lot of national publicity, Brad, over the past 48 hours or so. There's a lot of video of that's been shared on social media. And a lot of people are just horrified and concerned and very surprised that people would be so public in their acknowledgement of white supremacy and their hatred of black people, Brad.
All I can say is we used to work there, sadly.
We did, and we tried to clean the place up, didn't we?
The radio station we worked at was in Alamance County.
We did, and we cleaned the place up.
Was there, yeah.
Honestly, and it's very sad because that place is not like that. It's not. That represents a small fraction of the number of people who live there, but there is a tolerance for that sort of bullshit that goes on in Alamance County. I know it's been very shocking to people who have seen it nationally, but again, the axiom is true. Not all Trump supporters are racist, but almost every racist is a Trump supporter. Am I right in that? Is that a correct axiom?
Oh yeah. When you're drawing those Venn diagrams.
Yes,
absolutely.
So yeah, it's very sad to see that, and it's not like that. And there are a lot of people that are questioning about that. But that stuff is going on across America. If you don't think that shit is happening across America, you're just not paying attention right now.
Yeah. Well, I think as we sit here today, now it's exactly 6 weeks, until Election Day, and people are voting in a lot of states, including this one, not in person but by mail. You know, right. I dropped off our ballots yesterday.
Okay,
and I actually went to the post office, and I know this doesn't mean anything unless you think it does. Yeah, I drive up, and this is the kind of post office where there's 2 mailboxes you can drive by this direction, then the other 2 are turned around if you come from the other way.
That's very convenient.
And I drive up, and there's fucking mail all the way up to the top.
Oh, it's piled all the way up?
And then the second one piled all the way up to the top.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. That.
Wait, and then so I went the other direction, and that one was almost filled up to the top. So I kind of stuffed mine in there, but I don't like that.
I don't like it.
I don't like the fact that this is at a post office. This isn't like some thing that they pick up once a day.
Right. Not on the side of the street or whatever.
But it just, because of what we know.
Yeah.
We thought, well, maybe you guys might want to step it up right now. Just for fun. Step it up and keep the thing clear so that people don't drive away thinking, oh fuck, somebody's going to reach in there and put, you
exactly.
Just don't want that.
Right.
Stop it. But because the Postmaster General lives just a few miles away from that particular post office,
oh God,
who knows? And I'm not saying don't mail your ballot in.
No, you should.
It'll be fine. And by the way, the out of the NNO and WRAL and Wake County says everything is going perfectly smooth. They've had no problems. The mail has gotten, they're doing fine. But I'm just giving you an anecdotal, annoying experience because I went out of my way to say, well, maybe I'll take it right to the post office. That's probably the best place to do it.
And then you got freaked out. I mean, I used to see that kind of thing on tax day. Remember when tax day used to be on April 15th? And I've done the thing back when I was in college, filing my taxes, and the thing's been jammed up to the rafters. But geez, I wouldn't expect that on September the 21st or whatever.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
If the thing is filled up now, and you got to believe it's because of ballots.
I would think so.
A lot of people are doing that. So how about, say, stepping it up? Well, you can't because, of course, Louis DeJoy is Mr. Budget Cutter. We're going to run this like a business. By the way, if you ran it like a business, the business would step up there and get it done.
That's true.
Make sure that the customers are not led to believe that they're being screwed or something is going to be happening.
You're right.
When Federal Express or UPS find that they have more business, you know what they do? They hire more people.
They do.
Amazon keeps hiring 100,000 people at a time. What if they said, "Oh, fuck it. You know what?
We're done.
We don't care. If you know that 2-day delivery thing. Fuck it. It's now 2 weeks.
It's over. Yeah, forget it.
2 weeks.
We couldn't handle it.
Right.
It's too bad.
So, and by the way, think of this: if you're at all nervous about the way the Postal Service runs right now, just wait till it's private.
Oh God.
Just wait till it's private. And,
That's true.
And because they would not run it like UPS or FedEx. Okay,
they would not. No,
they would not do it that way. It's not going to work. All right, are we done with today's damage?
That's a full lid, as they say in Washington.
All right, good. Congrats again on the Raiders there.
That was a fun win. But that stadium is something else. I can't wait to get some fans in there.
Well, that's sad that they can't draw any attendance there, though. That did not look good.
Maybe if the team keeps winning, some people will show up for these games.
They got to get the word out. They're just not doing any publicity.
If they would, hey, what's that big thing? It just showed up near the strip. I don't know. It's just a huge dance thing.
All right. Bye.
See you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.